but I've been fortunate enough to have Eureka Lithium sponsor this part of the video. I had the honor of sitting down with Jeff Wilson, CEO of Eureka Lithium, and discuss how he transitioned from working with gold and silver companies to working with Shawn Ryan, Canada's most famous prospector, on a lithium project in North Quebec. My goals in bringing you this video is to help you learn more about resource investing, the fact that Eureka Lithium was able to cherry pick their properties based on previous surveys that highlighted high levels of lithium, and considering who their neighbors are, I'm super interested in this company. Let me shut up and let Jeff Wilson, the CEO of Eureka Lithium, tell you more. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.
At Stackers University, we love our physical gold and silver. Do you stack metals? And tell us a little bit about your background working in the industry.
Yeah, look, I've been in the precious metal sector for most of my career, stemming about 25 plus years here now. And so, yes, I am a physical gold and silver holder, and I've been holding some of the metal for about 20 plus years now. And I see great upside in that. Obviously, when I got started in the business, gold was less than $300 an ounce, and here we are at over 2,000. So certainly, really nice appreciation based on good, strong fundamentals, and I think there's lots of upside there still to come. However, a lot of my career has been on the capital market side of things and equities, and so I also have probably a greater percentage of my exposure on the equity side and investing in a balanced portfolio of gold producers, gold developers, and of course gold exploration companies that are high risk, of course, but do have that fairly explosive upside, especially on the back of discoveries and identifying and delineating new deposits. So a balance of the metals themselves and equity exposure as well.
In the mining business, it's all about leadership and the team. And it seems that you have something really special going on, not only with your more than 25 years of experience, but you've also teamed up with Shawn Ryan, who is better known as Canada's most famous prospector. Tell us more about this partnership.
Yeah, I mean it's a compelling story, no question about it. I'm really excited to be working with Shawn. Obviously, I've known of Shawn and his background for quite a long time. And as you indicate, he's a bit of a legend in our industry in terms of his process and strategy for finding future mines. There's no question that gold producers and major mining companies around the world are always on the hunt for new supply. Their balance sheets are going to be dictated by whether or not they're increasing production. So they're always looking for the next stream, if you will, of supply. And so, the end of the spectrum where Shawn and I are at, Shawn is at sort of the prospecting and identifying areas that are overlooked or underappreciated, but have the right affinities to host the kind of mineralization that eventually big companies are going to want to have. My background has been, marketing these stories, guiding these ships through sort of the early stages, always making sure that the companies are well financed and that the investors are aware of what we're doing. And so the coming together of those two skill sets, I think, is quite exciting. And look, we both recognize that gold and silver are still very, very exciting markets, and I think we're seeing that over the last month or so in the move in gold price. But there's no question that there is an emerging demand for critical metals and specifically lithium and anything that feeds into sort of the new green world that we're all hoping to move into, and specifically batteries and electric vehicles. And so recognizing the shortfall of supply of those of lithium in again geopolitically sound jurisdictions where you're not at the risk of dealing with challenging geopolitical nations, securing that kind of supply within favorable jurisdictions is key. And so Shawn took a start by looking at around the globe, where are the right geological environments for lithium to exist? Where should we be looking? Where's the right geology and the right earmarks? And he identified northern Quebec as one of the best places on the planet. And there were some other aspects of what he identified with respect to some known mineralization there that had been maybe overlooked. And secured, significant land packages there, and so we're pretty excited about sort of taking our precious metals pedigree, if you will, or track record, and applying that to this emerging new market in the lithium space.
From where I sit, 2023 was an amazing year for your company, with you acquiring 100% ownership of the properties and raising around $7 million. Could you quickly recap 2023 as a way to help us understand what to expect in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, you've nailed it. I mean, 2023 was really a sort of a setup year for us, if you will. We had identified I had built the shell, I had built the company, put the company together with the purpose of looking for an opportunity to bring into the company to, set it on its way, sort of thing. And that's when, I was introduced to Shawn. We started talking about his concept, saw a great opportunity for the company to come together with Shawn and set us out on a path. And so, within 2023, we went from being basically a shell company to doing the deal with Shawn, whereby we brought in Shawn as a major shareholder. I think that was a key part of the transaction, was that we didn't just hand over a bunch of money to the seller, if you will, of the prospects, and then have him sail off into the sunset. He came in, he was paid largely through equity, so he becomes one of the largest shareholders of the company. So he's aligned with shareholders. His upside in this is through stock, and we were able to first of all start by getting Shawn positioned, doing the transaction to complete 100% ownership of the shares. That was coincided with just under $8 million financing that we did at that same time. That then led us into having the financial capacity to get started on the ground. We engaged one of the best exploration companies that I'm aware of, and they've worked very closely with Shawn Ryan in the past. So we brought on an exploration crew to get out in the field, do the prospecting, the sampling, sort of the validation, if you will, of some of the targets that Shawn had identified. What's critical about that is, if you're going to bring in sort of the rock whisperer, as I sometimes refer to Shawn as, you want to make sure that the guys that are in the field, or the girls that are in the field, are executing in a manner that he wants, right? There's no point in having him say, look, this is why I think these prospects are interesting, and then going out and doing groundwork that doesn't really tie in with his thesis. So bringing in this company was really helpful in making sure that there's synergies there with Shawn and the work that was done on the ground. So we did quite an extensive field program this summer. A lot of that was, quite frankly, it was boots on the ground. It was testing these areas that, look good on maps, but, do they really, have the right stuff? And sampling, taking rock samples, going out and taking photographs. We use these devices called, the laser devices are called LIBs, which can scan rocks and give you some sort of an indication or reading about potential lithium content. They're not assays, but, they give you a little bit of a head start, if you will. So we were able to really sort of do some cherry picking, if you will, in terms of areas that evidence that they required follow up, and areas, again, in exploration, you also want to find out where you don't want to be, and be able to move on from those places and stay laser focused on the places that have the best upside. So we did that. We kind of came through the back end of 2023, having delineated a number of targets. We've got assay results pending. We'll have some future news releases in the early part of this year as to how last season's work all sort of ended up, and then we'll be able to then spend a few months evaluating and reviewing that data, making sure that we can hit the ground running again when we get back in the field here in 2024.
While you've been extremely busy, you've also had some very famous neighbors in cobalt metals making a lot of news. What does this mean for the battery metals industry?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's been quite important. I mean, look, anytime you're going into an area and you're telling the world that we think there's a reason to be looking here for lithium or nickel or cobalt or whatever it is you're looking for, it's great to be early, and we certainly are early in this area, sort of a new frontier. We're sort of at the cutting edge of identifying this area as having potential. But it's also nice to have validation by having other people sort of come into the area along with you. And in this case, Cobalt Metals, as you mentioned, is a private company. It's been backed by financiers like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Richard Branson. I mean, some of the biggest finance people on the planet have been, they've raised north of $300 million here in the last, couple of years. And so significant amount of money focused on looking for battery metals, critical metals. And so a lot of their work in the neighborhood is actually looking for nickel. But given their company's mandate to find sort of critical metals to feed the necessary supply, you can be assured that they're watching what we're doing there. And anytime you go into an area to make a discovery and to try to delineate a deposit or a potential future mine, it's always good to know that there's a potential buyer or a potential exit strategy there for someone who maybe has deep enough pockets to say, "Wow, you found something really important here. We'll pay you a wonderful premium to market, and we'll take it from here." And so, it's really nice to have these guys in the neighborhood. I think they draw attention to the area, and I'm hoping that their work leads to more successes to evidence that this part of Quebec has the goods, and investors should be watching closely. And the other thing is, you can't buy cobalt metals in the market. It's a private company. So if you want exposure to the critical metal upside to what's happening in this region, as an investor, you can only do so through publicly traded companies like Eureka.
I'm not sure how much sleep you're getting, but everything about Eureka seems to be on the fast track, and a couple of things stand out, specifically the size of the project, the cutting edge technology with the lasers, and how Shawn identified a land package with the most advantageous geochemistry in your favor. Can you tell us a little bit about how that land package was identified?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you talked about the size of the land packages. I think that's important. I mean, in exploration, there's no question this is early stage stuff. This is work that requires, as I said earlier, some misses before you find your hits and your big discoveries. And I liken it to lottery tickets. I mean, do you want to have one lottery ticket, or do you want to have a bunch of lottery tickets? And so the bigger your land package, the better the opportunity that you can find something meaningful. You need lots of land to be able to sort of delineate toward the sweet spots. And sometimes, like I said, that takes some time. And the worst thing you want to have happen is to find something that looks interesting and looks like it's tracing along this direction, and all of a sudden you come up against your land package boundary and you can't go any further. So we've got big land packages here that give us lots of room to poke around and try to find the mother lode, so to speak. And so that's key. And then, of course, you delineate from there, and you maybe reduce that land package over time once you find out certain areas just don't have the right stuff. But you want to start with casting as big a net as you can. The way that we identified these land packages, as you point out, Shawn Ryan, and this is something that really got me very excited about this entire process right from the start, was Shawn went through what was already out there in the public domain, and it was Quebec government surveying. The Quebec government had gone out, and as a way to promote exploration work in their province, they go out and they do certain sort of low level, early stage work to sort of say, hey, there's something interesting going on here and here, and it kind of helps to promote activity and create jobs and all that kind of stuff. And so there was a government survey done of lake bottom sediment sampling, which basically means sand or rocks or dirt that was in lake bottoms. And they surveyed the entire province. I mean, it was a very broad survey. So it wasn't just selective. Well, we'll take some samples here, we'll take some samples there. It was pretty much the entire province. And within that survey, Shawn was able to go through and look at that data and recognize that there were these big clusters or concentrations of the highest readings in lithium in these lake sediment samples by the government. And when I say highest, I mean these were in the 99.5 percentile of the entire survey of hundreds of thousands of samples. And what Shawn was able to identify is that many of these were in, like I say, these sort of clusters in areas in northern Quebec that were underexplored and available for staking. And so Shawn was able to go in and stake ground that basically encompassed and sort of included these very interesting lithium readings that no one had ever really followed up after the government did this survey. And so, it's one thing to say, well, we're going to pick up a bunch of ground in, let's say, a more active part of, where there's lots of lithium activity going on. That's great because there's known activity there. The downside of that is it's busy and it's crowded, and you can usually only get a small land package. And secondly, you're often picking up something because of where it's located, not because of whether or not there's any lithium on it. So we've kind of gone about this the other way and said, look, let's break away from the crowd here, and let's go somewhere where other people are not already, and where they haven't recognized the opportunity, get ourselves big land packages. And these are areas that actually have lithium readings. So it gives us a great head start. And I think that if we have some level of success, you may see it start to become a crowded space with other companies coming up there and joining the party, so to speak.
You have all this land with a strong likelihood of lithium and a lot of money in the bank. So what's in store for 2024?
Yeah, I mean, 2024, as we pointed out earlier, is going to be an exciting and a very active year for Eureka Lithium. There's no question about that. We'll take sort of the results from last year's work programs and apply that to sort of a stage two, if you will, of a more sort of laser focused follow up with on the back of some results. So definitely going to get really active. I expect that there will be at least one, if not more, drill programs up north there next year. I think the work that we did in 2023, if all goes well, should start to outline some drill worthy target areas for us. Now, whether or not we go back and do some follow up groundwork first, I don't know, but the results will dictate. But I think that it's definitely on our mind that we want to push this towards a drill stage here sooner rather than later, and that's when the rubber really hits the road in terms of potential discovery and results that really sort of move the needle for investors. But we're definitely moving in that direction, and I think that we'll have a very active season sort of from the spring through the winter of next year. In the meantime, because as you point out, this is a methodical approach, and this is a scientific approach that is going to take some time, and we're going to have to lay things out sequentially for the big prize. But in the meantime, investors like catalysts, and we need to make sure that we don't go to sleep for long periods of time as a publicly traded company. So we've recently announced a letter of intent on an additional piece of ground that's located a little further south in the same province of Quebec and is a lithium prospect. But it's a land package that's had some prior drill successes, so we know there's some meaningful lithium there. But it's got quite interesting exploration upside still to be explored. And so we were able to line up a deal with another company that had other priorities that they were focused on, especially in the very tight capital markets that we've been in over the last 12 or 24 months here, where cash is tight. We were able to come in because we are well funded, go in and we're working on finalizing a deal to acquire the rights to attain 100% of that. And that's a project that, because it's further south, weather is not, there's no seasonality. We can go in there, we can work year round. It's road accessible. It's a fairly active mining jurisdiction, a mining camp. So we've got access to drillers. And so we expect, if we can finalize that definitive agreement in the coming weeks, the hope is that we could be drilling there as early as January or February of this year. And again, that I think gives investors a reason to sort of watch this space, if you will, and stay tuned, and allows us to have some news flow and catalysts and potential results through this period while we wait to get back up and active again up north.
Jeff, you've been so generous with your time. Is there anything I've missed?
No, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of it. I think the one thing I will say as it relates to sort of the lithium space, if you will, is that, we've seen it come off quite a bit in terms of the price of lithium. And I know that that's, caused some pause for thought for some people about sort of the ongoing future of sort of lithium and lithium demand. And what I'll say about that is that I actually think that that's a positive sign. I mean, sometimes when these commodities become overbought and their price gets too high, they price themselves out of being useful. And the end user, let's say automakers in this case, say, man, this stuff is too expensive. It's driving up the price of production. We got to find an alternative. I think as a commodity, in this case, lithium sort of finds its bandwidth in terms of its price. It gives much more stability to the end user, in this case, the automakers, let's say, to say, yeah, look, we're going to secure a bunch of supply of lithium for the next 10 or 20 years to be able to, keep, our supply and our factories going in the same process. And so, as much as I think it's some people, if they're trying to chase sort of the hot metal, gold's had a great run here in the last little bit, and uranium, but lithium finding kind of its legs a little bit here, I think, is actually the best thing, because it kind of creates some stability where, like I said, the automakers can sort of take comfort that, okay, we got to secure this stuff. We know what it's going to cost. It's not going to kill the bottom line. Let's get after it and keep things going. So I'm quite pleased with it. And I think we're in a really good space here in the lithium market going forward.
There you have it, folks. Jeff Wilson, CEO of Eureka Lithium.